Now, not enhanced by the cameras, that's the stump camera, that's what we can see from here. It's 2:14 for 8. Can you believe what is happening at the Kensington Oval? Can you believe it?
The 2007 Cricket World Cup is probably the most poorly remembered Cricket World Cup of all times. The main reason for this are India and Pakistan getting knocked out in the group stages, as well as the time zone sort of being a mismatch for most of the cricketing world. Also, the pitches didn't really help. They were mostly slow and dull and didn't really provide much fun cricket, and there weren't many competitive games either. What's often forgotten is the debacle near the end of the final of the World Cup. To understand the full story, you'll need some context. It's April 28th, 2007, and it's the day of the final of the Cricket World Cup to be played between Australia and Sri Lanka. The match is already off to a poor start since the start is delayed by rain. Instead of being a full 50-over match, the game was set to be a 38-over affair. Australia batted first. Matthew Hayden and Adam Gilchrist put on a 172-run opening partnership. However, that was mostly all Gilchrist, as Hayden only scored 38 before he was out caught. Adam Gilchrist was on fire that day, as he ended up scoring 100 in just 72 balls, the fastest in a World Cup final. Adam Gilchrist ended up scoring 149 runs off 104 deliveries, with 13 fours and 8 sixes. Cameos from Ponting and Simons took Australia to a total of 281 for 4 at the end of the 38-over innings.
281 for 4, Australia.
This was a massive total, especially for the time. Sri Lanka would need to sustain a run rate of 7.42 for 38 overs to win the game, which would be a lot even for today's day and age. Obviously, Sri Lanka had to try though. In reply, they lost Uppal Taranga early on. Kumar Sangakkara and Sanath Jayasuriya then put on a 116-run partnership, which kept Sri Lanka in the game. They kept Sri Lanka's run rate above 6 until the partnership was broken when Sangakkara miscued a pull to Ponting. Jayasuriya was then bowled by Michael Clarke a few overs later, leaving Sri Lanka with 2 new batsmen at the crease. It was at the end of the 24th over when it started raining again. This rain delay wasn't too long, but the target was reduced to 269 in 36 overs, a reduction of only 2 overs. After the break, Sri Lanka continued to lose wickets at regular intervals. They couldn't string together a single partnership of note.
It will be out. That's a pretty good take.
Now here's where the ridiculousness begins. At around the 30-over mark, the ground started to become very dark. The ground did not have any floodlights, however there was a reserve day. At the end of the 33rd over, Sri Lanka were 206 for 7, requiring 63 more runs off just 18 balls with no recognized batsman at the crease. This is where the play was stopped due to bad light, and the Australians started celebrating, assuming that they had won the match, as it would be decided on the Duckworth-Lewis method.
The light has been offered to the batsmen who seem to have taken it. By doing so, the World Cup is Australia's. Australia have won the World Cup of 2007. They've done it in extraordinary circumstances, unsatisfactory circumstances for those watching. But will there be some celebrations or what from those guys tonight?
The game was over to everybody. The remaining 3 overs were just a formality, right? Well, not to the umpires. On-field umpires Aleem Dar and Steve Buckner decided that the remaining 3 overs of the game would have to be played the following day, on the reserve day. To everybody except the match officials, this was a ridiculous idea. Even the ground staff started bringing on the equipment for the presentation ceremony, but they were shooed away by the umpires.
Without exaggerating, it is difficult for us from the commentary box to be able to pick out players. That's how dark it is. The administrators have decided that the World Cup is over because they're already now ordering the staff to bring out the stanchion pieces for the podium for the closing ceremony, and the umpires are telling them to get off because the game's not over.
It's classic officialdom gone mad. Classic umpiring this from Aleem Dar and Steve Buckner. You just need a bit of common sense to prevail. But no, the umpires will go by the book.
In a 2019 interview, Ricky Ponting stated that he told Aleem Dar that if the game was stopped right now, he wouldn't even be able to field an 11 the next day because Australia know they've won the World Cup and they'd just be out celebrating and partying. Sri Lanka captain Mahela Jayawardene came out to the middle as well to discuss matters. The contents of the discussion are not known, but in the end, the 2 captains as well as the officials agreed that the Sri Lankan batsmen would come out regardless of the light and face the remaining 3 overs in order to finish the match that day. This made sense as even the losing team wouldn't want to come back the next day to finish a match that they already know they've lost, and especially when it's a tournament final. What then ensued that day was a farcical ending to what was a great match within the confines of the West. When Malinga and Voss walked out to bat again, the broadcast angles did not seem to be too dark. However, these were being enhanced. The stump cam showed what the players were actually seeing. It was a dim atmosphere that was only going to get worse. Australia bowled only spinners for the 3 overs, yet still the Sri Lankan batsmen were struggling to see and play the ball. Andrew Symonds actually ended up picking up a wicket in his over. Comically, in the penultimate over, Michael Clarke ended up bowling a wide down the leg side, and here's what happened.
Hoping the umpire won't give this a wide and prolong the agony. Wouldn't surprise me. There we go. Never one to disappoint, Aleem Dar.
At the end of the 35th over, we were again shown a view from the unenhanced stump camera. At this point, the match was quite literally being played in the dark. During the final over, even the enhanced broadcast view was starting to look dark. The match finally came to an end when Symonds bowled the final ball of the innings, and Australia could celebrate again, this time for real.
And that finally is that. Australia have won the World Cup of 2007.
The 2007 Cricket World Cup was already not going well. It desperately needed a good final, and it almost got one if it wasn't for what ensued in the final 3 overs of the match. In the aftermath of this event, the 5 officials, the 2 on-field umpires Aleem Dar and Steve Buckner, the 3rd umpire Rudy Kurtzen, the reserve umpire Billy Bowden, and the match referee Jeff Crow were all punished. They weren't included as officials for the World T20, which was set to take place in September of the same year. All in all, this event was the final nail in the coffin that would cement the 2007 Cricket World Cup's legacy as the worst Cricket World Cup of all time. This was the ridiculousness of the 2007 Cricket World Cup final.